All the Juggalos in recovery.
And the topic for tonight is the idea of what's next. So, not so much really what is immediately next, it's what comes next once you're sober. What comes next once you've hit that milestone? In recovery, we all have our milestones a day, a month, a year. What comes after that? You've made your amends, you've worked your steps, you've gotten sober outside of a program or inside of a program. That part doesn't really matter. You're at this point in your life where you're now feeling stable, like you get to exist inside a society around all of the people, whether sober or not. You don't have this giant focus on sobriety like you did in the beginning. So, what's next? So, for me, it took me a while to feel stable, but the first thing that I did was cut off all of my friends that were not on the same path as me. And then the very next step was to completely remove myself from the surroundings I was in. I moved myself from one state to another without much other planning, which was probably not the greatest decision. But, I did the couch surf thing with a handful of acquaintances that I knew until I was finally able to find a place of my own. And then I was finally able to get a job, and I finally felt stable again after going through so much instability of having to change everything up. So I was stable, I was comfortable, sobriety wasn't so much of a focus. And then, what happened? I made a whole new group of friends and I fucked up again, and I had to start all the way over. But the thing is I'd already done that once before, and we all fuck up. We all relapse at some point in one way or the other. Even if it's just a lapse in thinking. So I fucked up. I had to start over. But the thing was, I've done that before. I already knew what steps to take, how to change my thinking, where I went wrong, and how to avoid that in the future. So once I had already gotten through that and I was stable again, I changed everything, cut out the people that were bad influences on me, and focused on myself more and more. But that's my story on the steps that I took to start moving forward. Not everybody's going to have that ability right off bat. Not everybody has that drive to completely separate themselves. Everybody's story's very different, even though there are similarities. But today I'd like to hear from you. What happened for you once you were able to feel stable, like you could take that next step? Now go ahead and open it up to the group.
I'll speak, I guess, since I don't know if he's back yet. I would say it's been interesting on steps that I've taken because I've literally gone from talking to everyone and fixing shit or trying to, and then realizing, nope, that's not gonna work. Because yeah, I fucked up, but so did they, and I can admit to mine, but they aren't there yet and don't want to. So I've had to cut a bunch of people out. Some of them been easy, some of them been hard. Some of them have actually realized that they did as well. So it's been kind of interesting to realize who can admit and who won't admit who fucked up. And then I've literally changed locations, but all of changing locations isn't done. And I can't completely explain what my plan is with that one because it's not done.
Now, for you, changing locations, was that helpful or more of a detriment to your stability inside of sobriety?
I would say it was like the best things for sobriety to actually change and go to people that I knew I could trust and that would have my back and help me figure out if I couldn't figure out what steps to take completely on my own, that they could point me in a good direction on which way to go.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. For me, it was just getting out of my surroundings. I was stuck in such an isolated area that no matter what I did, unless I completely cut off contact with absolutely everybody I knew and had no way to get a hold of people, I was always ending up in some kind of situation where I ended up fucked up because there was literally nothing else to do in that location but sit around, drink, or sit around, do drugs. So it was necessary for me to change locations in a really drastic way. Was that something that you also kind of saw?
Yeah, because before I decided to change locations, I did cut off ties to everyone, everything, and walked for over 24 hours because I needed to. It was the easiest way for complete reset on life.
And you know what? Sometimes the reset is what we really need is to start without preconceived notions about us. Our pasts are our past, and yes, it shaped us, but it's not the people we are today. Those are the people we used to be.
But yeah, that's pretty much right. I don't think anyone's the same as they were like years ago at all, or even last year at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've all had to change so much. I'm not the same person I was last year. I'm definitely not the same person I was a decade ago. I feel like that's everybody. We all have so many things that we go through that changes the way we look at things, the way we interact with things, and how we deal with certain situations. You know, without all of the terrible situations I've put myself through, I definitely wouldn't be as calm and level headed as I am today. Have you learned anything like that?
Yeah, I would say common level headed is very interesting, but without my reset and being by myself before trying to do it, I don't think I could have because now I get approached and asked things just because people see that I've got a hatchet man on me. So they think, oh, she'll know where to find something. I'm like, nope. And I just go on, hey, you can try this instead. And they're like, oh, I've tried it. It doesn't work. And I just be like, well, keep trying. And then
Yeah.
don't even do what they want me to at this point.
Now I get the same thing. You know, unfortunately, we are a subculture that is immediately tied to excess and drug use. Oh, Brian seems to be back. Let's see what Brian has to say.
I'm back, but I'm not back. I'm still busy, but I'm gonna stop for a minute and get my share on and then keep doing what I'm doing. So the process of going through the steps was, that's the growth and change process. But you're talking about when you like when I first got sober, I probably went to like 300 meetings my first 90 days, right? But the longer I stay sober, the less like I went to meetings. I still have my routine, my stuff to keep me spiritual, my stuff to keep me in a process of growth and change, because that's what it is. And I guess I moved down to where I moved down to get out of trouble with the law, and still got in trouble with the law and did drink and drug and drank here. And I kind of did the same thing you did, as I cut off the majority of my friends when I got sober. I just didn't move a location, and there's nothing but bars and drugs around here if you want it. But I just, the people that stayed in touch with me, I kept those people not close, but in my life. And the people that gravitate back in are the ones that are meant to come back in, and the ones that don't, and they're not. And finding some sort of stability, you know, is just it's different, right? Because now you're learning not it's not about staying sober, it's about learning to grow emotionally and mentally, which is a whole different thing. Which is it never stops, right? You learn more how to be at peace. You learn how more to handle and adapt to situations. You learn how to keep cool when you don't want to. You know what I mean? And that's all practicing characteristics that we didn't have before, that we learned through the beginning of our sobriety, or that we realized were these defects. If you're not in a 12-step program and you're working on other things, that you learn these defects were a hindrance, right? And you choose to work on them so they don't hinder you in your relationships and your work and everything else. For the ones that didn't come through a program, because there is those too that struggle mentally, that realize have these problems with everybody, so something's wrong. So what do I got to do? That seek help to figure out ways to change and grow. And I mean, really, the only way you get any sort of stability is if you change and grow, right? Because if you stay that, or at least for me, if I stay that adolescent, angry teenager, I'm not going to have any sense of stability in my life.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I appreciate you sharing. I know you're busy as shit right now, Brian. Thanks for taking some time and talking with us.
Yeah, I didn't even show my mohawk tonight.
Oh, I'm sure it's phenomenal. But that's one of those things is when we are moving forward past just being sober, how do we do better? We always talk about these things that we've learned, but we don't really tell you how to do that, because that's some shit you've got to try to learn for yourself. That's some shit you have to try to learn from other people. We don't learn emotional intelligence as humans by just listening to other people be emotionally intelligent. We learn through example. We learn through hardship. We learn through fucking up. So to tell you step by step how to go past just the 12 step, or going past just getting sober, is solely on the person. It's not up to me to be able to show you exactly what's going to work for you, because that's not something that any of us can really learn. That's not something I can teach, because that's something that is based solely on your own experience. Anybody have anything else to add to this shit? No, I'm guessing not. So I'm gonna go ahead and
Sorry,
stop.
I was sidetracked for a minute because I was trying to find the link because someone asked for the code,
Okay.
which isn't as easy to find,
Yeah.
apparently.
Give me a second. I'll pull it off of the main page and post it in the chat for you. So we always have it on our main page, just below where the live video is. All right, that's in the chat now. So if you want to send it to somebody and have somebody else come in and talk some shit with us, we can do that. With Bryant being busy, our mouth is down for the evening. You know me, I'm not actually all that great at talking long term.
It's all good. I was actually amazed that this person actually wanted the link because usually they're busy at the hour that we're on. So I was just trying to help them out.
Yeah, well, I'll stay on and keep talking if they want to come in and listen. Or if they want to come in and share, that'd probably be better. I bounce better off of other people than to just talk shit off of my extensive notes. But it's gonna be interesting. Hopefully, we can get a few more hosts in that can
Okay.
talk a bit
Okay.
better than I can.
Okay.
Yes.
So you sorry, trying to multitask here. But you were saying I agree with where you were saying that the emotional sobriety or maturity is a learned thing, right? Because I definitely wouldn't be the person I am right now if it wasn't going through the hardships that life throws at you and learning how to deal with things in a healthier manner besides, bottling up emotions and suppressing emotions and using drugs and alcohol to escape from them. So like I could tell somebody till I'm blue in the face to try 100 different things, but without going through some stuff and applying and finding what works for you, it kind of does no good, because really the human experience, that's what it is. It's trial and error. It's going through the things and finding out what works for you. Just like everybody's recovery is a little bit different, because we all go through similar but different things.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's not something that I can teach you because my experience is my own. I have my level of emotional intelligence, and that only really applies to my own experiences. Your experiences are obviously very different than mine. So your level of emotional intelligence and the way that you understand things are going to be very different. So trying to translate that into a way that I would understand and a way that I could apply that would be a bit more difficult.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
and it's huh
Go ahead.
and it's like that they say like hindsight's a bitch. Like if I could have applied all the things my parents and people I looked up to like told me throughout a lifetime, would have probably saved a lot of hardships, but I didn't even know what they were saying until I've went through things enough to go, oh, that little saying you used to always say makes a whole hell of a lot of sense now.
Yeah, exactly. I can't tell you how many times people have told me how I was fucking up and how they would handle themselves in a situation, but that only applies to them. That doesn't apply to the way that I handle things or the way I think about things. Only
Yeah,
my own logic works in that situation.
yeah, and no, nobody's going to change how they handle things or do things until they go through enough misery of trying it a certain way and failing to go, well, obviously this isn't working and I'm tired of the results that I'm getting.
Yeah. Well, we've got a newcomer in the room. We're talking today about what comes after sobriety. And that's one of the most difficult topics I've ever had to really think about because there's no good way to really put it into simple words because we always focus on these milestone moments, these 1 month, 6 months, 9 months, a year. What comes after you're stable? For me, it took me having to change locations, having a relapse, and then having to start over again for me to get to the level where sobriety wasn't my focus, but it was something that was just a part of my daily life. It wasn't something that I was striving for, it wasn't something I was struggling with, it just was. I don't know if you have anything to add to the conversation, but that's what it is for now. Josie, you got anything you want to add in?
She has actually been on here before with us. I don't know if you were on that one or not. So she is a newcomer, but isn't at the same time. I'm not sure what she's up to, if she's working or busy, but
Okay. It just is what it is. It's kind of a smaller meeting, which is fine with me. It's just don't really have a whole lot to actually say tonight. It was a pretty straightforward meeting topic, and it was a pretty interesting topic for conversation, and that's something we can continue in more meetings later. It's just it's not something that I ever feel like we really tackle in any of our meetings. We always talk about our coping mechanisms and the steps that we're working and where we struggle the most with certain things. We don't talk about what's after that.
oh yeah, that's a good point because I don't think I have heard or even going through everything, seen anything about what happened after facts of any of it. And that is an important part of all aspects of life in a sense when something happens that basically fucks up everything in the world.
Yeah, when we think about how we work any type of these programs, even though I came from sobriety outside of a program, the idea of 12 steps and working through these certain things that help build these coping mechanisms so you can handle this active addiction. That was all really great. That's super helpful, but nobody talks about what happens after. And that was really what I wanted to try to focus on tonight was what comes next. Because I don't remember ever hearing anything about anybody saying what comes after this. It's just we're addicts forever. And sure, while that is always the case, I'm always going to have that addictive personality. We also end up developing this ability to navigate addictive or tempting situations in a different way than we would have when we were working just the 12 steps or when we were just early on in tackling our sobriety.
And I would say I think it's because that's kind of a harder topic to touch on because everyone's thought and process of the afterwards is so different that no one wants to seem better or more important or did it the wrong way or the right way than anyone else did.
Well, I mean, I really don't feel like there's ever a wrong or a right in this situation. There's no proper way to live life. There's no proper way to navigate any set circumstance. It's all just based upon who you are as a person. Because I'm going to handle things very differently than you are, but there's still these things that we can talk about, these just universal ideas of how we navigate specific type of scenarios, and it all comes down to just having a level of knowledge of self and then having this basis of emotional intelligence on how we can navigate interactions with people and situations. There is no wrong or right in that situation. It's just how it is.
This is an interesting topic. I don't really understand it because what I've been taught in my recovery outside of the Juggalo program is that the program never ends. You don't graduate. You don't just work the steps one time. You don't stop going to meetings at a certain point. Some people do, and that's sometimes they relapse or they end up miserable or whatever. But uh, so you're saying like what happens after? And I mean, everybody's life is going to look different. Everybody's going to recover different at different paces. And what they do is going to be different because we're all unique. But things do happen. Like usually you get reunited with your family. Usually you get a good job. Usually you get some sort of income. Usually you start taking care of your health eventually. Usually you get your own house or something, you get a home. Like these things aren't things that we may have had when we was using that do happen when we stop using. So maybe that's how I can answer your question of what happens after. Like you start to get a life. That's what recovery gives us, is a whole life beyond our wildest dreams, you know?
I mean, yeah, that is totally applicable in this situation. And I really like that answer. I see Brian's got his hand up as well. Let's see what Brian's got to say.
Sorry, I've been busy, but she kind of hit where I was thinking about, because you said life after like going through an initial process of sobriety, and I totally agree with her. Like this becomes like a fluid motion. You know, you go through the motions of the steps all the time. It's not like a one and done when you're in recovery, right? Because when we stop doing what worked originally and fail to grow or enhance what we're doing, that's usually when relapses do happen. They don't necessarily have to happen, but like when I got sober, I didn't know who I was, what I wanted to do, what my goals or ambitions were, right? So after I learned, like went through the process of the steps and worked on my emotional and mental health, came, okay, well, now what do I want to do? Let's set these goals and make these steps towards these goals to do these things that I've wanted to do, but have been unable to do due to drug and alcohol use. So, you know, starting college, getting my driver's license, getting cars, buying a house, going to the gathering, doing all these different things that I've always wanted to do, but couldn't do, you know, eventually happened. But it wouldn't have happened if I didn't go through a growth process.
All right, Danielle, I see you got your hands up.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one thing. Someone said like you get cleaner and eventually bad shit happens, and that's true. That's why we continue our program. That's why we continue working with a sponsor, reaching out to people, going to meetings, working the steps, and working on our program and our recovery, whatever we do for that. And the reason why we do that is why we don't stop is so that when bad things happen, we're prepared to handle it. We're not going to immediately go back to using. We're going to play the tape all the way forward and actually think it through and think about the consequences and recognize that that's not really what I want to do. We're going to, if we're still talking to our sponsor regularly, maybe we're going to call our sponsor before we pick up and use. If we're going to meetings, maybe we're going to share about it in a meeting instead of just going out and using. Like if you're actively participating in your program, you're setting yourself up with the best relapse prevention. And that's all.
Yeah, and I
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
This topic wasn't so much the idea of ever exiting the program. It was more so about these milestones that we've set up in front of ourselves, these 6 months to a year, 5 years, 10 years. At some point, the years stop mattering and it really becomes about your day-to-day life and how you're applying your knowledge there.
So we've been talking for a while, Chris. You know my list of goals, which a majority of them have been accomplished due to a program of recovery and learning emotional health, mental health, and whatever. So like I have new goals. You know, I did everything I've wanted to do so far besides complete my associates. So next year I want to start an LLC. I think I'm going to start writing a book, and I have to finish my associates for social work and human services, and work, truck, and a motorcycle. That simple. Those are the next slew of goals where I want to tackle. And once those are tackled, time to go bigger. You know, had the house, got the marriage, did the gathering, did all those things, you know, and just adjusting with the new commitments and things I have going on in my life while making these goals and striving towards them, you know, because it's all the things I never thought I would be able to do. I'm going to make sure I do them. Like I never thought I was going to be more than what I used to be 5 years ago. which wasn't much. The couch surfing guy that couldn't stop drinking and drugging and go into prison.
Danielle, you still have your hand up. I don't know if you had something else to add there, but I also see Josie's going. So I'll give Danielle, if you've got anything to add there.
I thought you lowered our hands. I was gonna say something, but I forgot, so I'll wait.
Oh, it's all right. Josie, you've got your hand up, so you can go ahead and go.
I was gonna say, since I haven't been on one since you got married, congrats, and I'm freaking proud of you for doing it and having new goals now to achieve, by the way.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah,
No
I saw the
problem.
pictures from it and it was really dope.
Yeah, I agree. That was
Yeah,
badass. Those
now I get to
pictures.
have a Halloween party every year for my anniversary.
Yeah, it looked like y'all had a lot of fun. Congratulations. Anyway, I'm real proud of y'all for having goals because that's not something that everyone does. That's something that we talk about in recovery, but it's not something that everyone actually sits down and makes a list of goals or maybe a time frame or a bucket list. Like my boyfriend doesn't give a shit about goals. He's not in recovery. So I definitely can feel how people are different, and I appreciate when people actually need to do something for themselves.
So you
Pat
said
yourself
bucket
on the
list.
back.
You said bucket list. I always wanted to go to skydiving, but I have a fear of heights and I've never been in a plane. So the first day, New Year's Day, I went in a plane for the first time and jumped out of it. And I said, I will make 2022 my bitch. Now it's just to keep those goals going. You know, you got to have something like, if you have no drive or purpose, like, and you don't know what you want out of life, I feel like that is an issue where a lot of people, especially like me, in recovery get stagnant. Like, what's the purpose? What's the point? What am I doing? Right? If you don't have a purpose or a point to what you're doing, I mean, kind of gives you no motivation, you know what I mean? And you're more prone to just say, oh, fuck it. You know,
Yeah.
when you have people depending on you and you have you depending on you and you have these things and goals and commitments and responsibilities, it kind of is a big driver to keep you going, you know?
For sure.
Yeah, I live a very goal-oriented life, so I really don't understand how people can live without having that next thing to try to tackle as their motivation, to just exist without trying to excel or get something slightly better, or even just a goal of getting to the next stop just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Mm. I just did something incredible, y'all. I was looking at my credit score and I don't know what came over me, but I called one of them up and made a payment arrangement for one of those. So I'm working on my credit score. Isn't that cool?
That's fucking awesome. Tackling credit was definitely one of the hardest things in my life because nobody ever taught me shit about credit. And it wasn't
Mhm.
until I was in my mid 20s that I had to figure out how to fix that.
Hey, yeah, I feel that because like when I first got sober, my credit score was like low 400s, like not above the 20s. So um, to build credit and be able to buy like a $500,000 home and shit, you know what I mean? To be able to have the credit to say, yeah, we trust you enough to give you money, you know, when I couldn't even open a bank account, like that's fresh. Like, you know, start off small. Like I started off with like a little finger hut account and then some credit card with stupid freaking high interest rates and started, you know, making on time payments, paying more than what I owe. Next thing you know, like scores go through the roof when you learn how to handle it responsibly.
Yeah, I did it the same way. I did a fucking little finger hut account for a couple of months, and then I got a secured credit card with stupid interest rates. And then within, I think it was only like 2 years, I was able to get approved for a loan for my house.
Yeah,
Heck yeah.
about the same thing for me. About 2 years to do the same thing you're talking about.
Y'all are inspirational.
And I'm fucking retired. I
Yeah,
probably
that's
got one of the weirdest inspirational stories ever.
That's why I wanted to drop that little nugget about credit, because you're talking about paying off a debt. There's other ways to do it and boost your score. So just look into it, man. I started off with like a $300 Fingerhut account, used half of it, paid it off. I think I got like $5,000 in Fingerhut credit now. I have like 20 grand in open credit. I was able to buy, $500,000 home. Like anything's possible if you have that goal and you're dedicated to like, my goal was like in Florida, I don't know where it is, if it's every state or if it's just Florida, but you have to have a low 580 to even get acknowledged for a homeowner's loan. But if you can get it up to the mid to high 600s, that's the best, or into the 700s. So my goal was like make that score up so I can get a house.
Yeah.
That was a goal. So like keep doing that, start small and keep doing it and you get up there. And like if you're already going to buy something and use cash or debit, you might as well have a credit card to do that with and then pay it right back. That's how you build it.
Yeah, for the longest time, like that's all I used was my credit card. And as soon as I made that purchase, I just set that money aside in my account. And then as soon as the end of the month came in, blam, paid it all off. And it didn't take me like a stupid long time, but I was able to get up into the 700s after 2 years with garbage credit and really not making that much money. So it's all doable. You just gotta, make that your priority, make that your goal. It's just like anything else we do in life. If it's not our priority, if it's not that top thing that we're trying to get accomplished, we're going to handle a bunch of other shit in the meantime. And that's going to kind of sit off to the side and not get done the way we want it.
I think I need to make a dream board. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of that concept, but I'm really bad about
Yes, they're
forgetting
awesome.
stuff.
Yeah, make a dream board and then make a goal list.
Yeah.
on a dry erase board or something you see every day, even if you don't read it, so you see it subconsciously, and then just go for it.
Exactly.
Pennies add up into dollars eventually. You don't have to tackle the biggest thing right off the bat. You can start small and build your way up. Eventually, you get into that snowball effect.
So pennies equal dollars, bro. So like every time I spend money, if I had loose change or even if it was like ones or fives in my pocket, I was throwing it in this laundry pod thing, the container the pods come in. And I was just like, the other day, I was like, oh, I'm just going to go through it. And I had like almost $600 in there. And it's not even full yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically how I
crazy.
bought my second house. I was just rounding. Yeah,
I used to
rounded
dig through
up
my couch for the
Oh,
change
yeah.
to get a 40. Now I have a change jar. The fuck?
Right? Got fucking savings accounts. We're diversified and shit. But it doesn't take much to accomplish things. You have to make it a priority. If you need constant reminders about your priority, make it happen. Because that's just one more step towards what your ultimate goal is. Just make yourself the reminders, make the little movements, do what you can to get to where you want to be.
So I didn't use physical boards, but I believe in like the law of attraction. You think and speak till you get it. And I just think, because I kept saying a list of goals and what I'm going to do, and then they all happened while I was making the footwork towards it. Like you speak things and think things in existence, like I won't get into vast details about it, but everything that I had as goals that I said that like just kind of happened the last year, I kept saying that for the last 3 years before that. I'm going to do X, 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 and then they all materialize, and I'm not even 4 years sober. So now it's speak the next part into existence, right? Just keep speaking it and going for it till it happens,
Yeah, that's all it takes is just keep going after it. Nothing gets done without the effort.
Yeah, and you know, I say the law of attraction stuff because if I keep telling myself, you know, I'm not worthy and I can't do this, and you know, it's never gonna happen, then it's not gonna happen. That's how I feel about it, you know, because I'm killing my own possibility before it even, you know, sprouted.
Yeah, small movements is still movement. Doesn't matter how little that it is. If it's
That's what she
something,
said.
it's still something.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you should have seen last week's meeting. I had a whole handful of dicks last meeting.
I muted my mic. You can finish now.
That's really about it. Our meeting is pretty much over unless you got like a topic you want to talk about or think about.
Just let me know what time your meeting is Friday, because I missed it. I thought it was at 8 o'clock my time.
It always seems to change on Fridays. I was just gonna say.
It's always at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, but we do not know for sure if somebody's running it this Friday because I am going to be on the way to Orlando for the honeymoon, and I'm the one that usually runs Friday. Frank filled in
Mhm.
last Friday, so if there is going to be one, just stay tuned in case it pops
Yeah.
up closer
So
to
I,
time.
I would cover, but I'm gonna be in
Oh,
Detroit on
Orlando,
Friday.
fun.
But I was doing a step study, so not this Friday, but next Friday I will be on step 5 with the principal behind 5 with a song attached to it. So see you there.
Okay.
Yeah, our meeting schedule's also on our website. And if you wanted to like look at some of our older meetings, we've got them on the YouTube channel. If you just need that inspiration for the day, it's just Juggalos and Recovery meetings. And you can just search that up on YouTube. And then you can also go on our Facebook. We've got all of our previous meetings on the live stream documented there.
Yeah, I've added you already. And I have everyone on my Facebook except for you, Chris.
Yep, I'm the hardest one because I'm not actually on Facebook except to do this.
Oh, you're a ghost.
Yeah, pretty much. I just got tired of the social media game, but this is important.
My goal is to get on OG Chris's level without as many blowjobs to get there. Just joking, Chris. Love you.
Yeah. Hey man, I'll play the skin
Wow, you
flute.
guys are
I give
crazy.
zero shits.
I'm trying to get to the homies level, you know.
I just keep at it. That's all it ever took for me.
I got to start, you know, some businesses here in the next few years and make people make my money for me.
That's the biggest trick. Living on passive income is that shit. You know, it may not just be pennies to start out, but then pennies add up into dollars.
I'll get there. It's going to happen. Speak it into existence. Start with the LLC this year.
Start with your LLC, start diversifying into ETFs and move into fully passive income. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and kill the live streams.